Hey everybody, I just wanted to post up another video and show the progress on the front end of the 64 Beetle repair. I realized I've got a few videos in my camera here, so I'm going to try and stitch them together on a video editor. I've never done that, so we'll see how that goes, and we'll show you the progress. Thank you. So here again we are back on the bug. I got the fenders and the hood pulled off of it last night. Here's a little better look at the damage now that it's more exposed. This side is fairly messed up. The other side doesn't look as bad. The shape of the panel is still there, although there's a pretty good buckle there. Along the bottom, the spot welds have come undone. I guess they broke off the impact of the accident. Spare tire well bottom looks good, although it's bent up and needs straightening as well. This is definitely the worst of it. So if you look on the back side, you can see the buckle there where it was never pulled back out, and they just kind of, I don't know, line things up enough to get the hood to close, I guess. You look at this panel here, it's nice and straight up until this point, and then it takes a good bend back. So the plan's going to be basically get the sway bar off of this thing, and I'm going to use the front of the beam as my pushing point to push this out on this side here. And then once that's done, I'm going to build a fixture that'll come off the front of the beam, and it'll give me a pulling point off at the front. And what I'll do is build a bracket that mounts to the bumper brackets, the bumper bracket mounting point, and I'll use those to pull the front end out while I hammer and dolly the metal back into the original form. The very front apron, you know, they didn't really fix it. There's a lot of bad Bondo in there over shiny paint. And on the back side you can see where there's still big dents and ugliness. This part in here might be a little bit of a challenge. I don't think it'll be any big deal. Yeah, so that's it for now. I'm going to get going on this, and I'll give you an update in a bit. Alright, so here's a little shot of my bulldozer situation that I built. It's basically a 2x2 thick wall tubing. It mounts to the front of the beam. There's kind of a bolt that goes through into a plate of steel at the back to hold it. This fixture here slides along the 2x2 tubing. I'm using a 4-ton hydraulic ram that came with a little bench press. So on this side here, the damage is basically a buckle there, and what's happened at the bottom is the spot welds have all broken loose. So if you come around to the outside, you can see the buckle there as well. And if you look down on it, you can see this area here is buckled out. I've removed the horn bracket just for ease of moving the metal around. I'll re-spot weld it on. I'll clean up behind it, of course, before put epoxy primer on it and such. So let's give this a tug and see how it goes. You can see the metal all pulling itself straight in this area here. What I'm going to do now is get a hammer and dolly and work it out a bit. And at that point there, I'm going to leave the pressure on it and hammer and dolly it back a bit more. So we'll show you in a bit. Yeah, so here's where we're at on it. We've got the front end. It's coming along quite nicely, actually. It pulled out quite beautifully. This side here looks quite good. It's probably at about a 90% point. There's a little bit more work to do. There's a weld to do here. I ended up pulling off the horn bracket just to get it out of the way. The area inside of the tire well looks really nice. That side there, which was the worst, has actually come out quite nicely, and that's probably, you know, once again at about an 80% kind of thing. There's some detailing to do there. This corner down in here ended up quite nice. Ended up pulling off this bumper bracket because it was quite a mess, and they had drilled a hole through it because the threaded nut part had come out, I guess, at some point. So they drilled a hole through it and right through the body to fasten the bumper on. So it'll get re-spot welded on. There was the part up in here that I ended up having to cut out, which is this piece right here. Ended up having to cut it out and drill the spot welds to get it out of the way for two reasons. The one is that the part itself was quite bent up and it's torn. I have to weld it up. And secondly is the metal behind it wasn't accessible to be able to straighten it properly. So the only solution there was to drill out the spot welds, cut the piece out, straighten it, and I'll clean that all up and epoxy prime it before it gets spot welded back in, and then I'll do a butt weld there. Yeah, it's coming along quite nice. The front apron here, the top of it was quite buckled in, so I've got it mostly straightened. There was a really bad kink in there. The weather strip retainer is well, it's quite a mess, but it's salvageable. It'll just take time. Nowadays I find I have more time on my hands than money, so it was a logical solution to straighten out this metal. I would rather have the German metal than to cut it off and put a aftermarket front clip on, although that would have been a huge time saving. But so yeah, that's it. It's coming along quite nice. The next part I'm going to do is start straightening all this out. This part here is the absolute worst, and as reference you can see a hole there, and that little green dot in there is actually the spot weld that tore out of that point. So, and it's not so much that this part here is over this way, this part here is over that way, and they never brought it back. I mean, you can actually see a bow in it here. If you take a straight edge there and take a look at it, you can see the bow in it. And if we go to the other side and compare it, you know, it actually rocks there because of the curvature it's supposed to have. So once again, not a big deal. It's just a matter of spending the time and doing it in the right order to get the metal back to where we want it. So hopefully you're enjoying this, and I'm able to stitch the videos together and you'll be able to understand the approach I took on this. And thank you for watching, and hopefully we see you on the next one.